Okay, it's May 5th, and in the afternoon sometimes I do a kind of potpourri, answer questions and so forth, curtail misnomers or misunderstandings, etc., and then add any research that's happened during the day. I always like to come out here to Capitol Heights at the end of the metro line because that was the evacuation route. Originally, the metro was the idea for evacuating DC quickly in case of a nuclear attack. And of course, going to a high spot offers the advantage of also defense if there's an invasion. This is the new hospital behind us here in Largo. And we're not far, just over that hill, well, you can see the top of it, is the Democratic Maryland headquarters. So Mr. Gauntner, if we have found a Blackberry, we want to get it back to you. If you're not listening for submarines, down on M Street for Ben Cardin. Submarines is in quotes, right? So a lot of these, if you don't know the reference there, a lot of these Navy intel guys who were in the kind of NSA were hired by Bob Mueller and end up going in as political operatives because they go into the Congress with a top secret clearance, which is kind of great. Gun your engine if you're a drug dealer for rum. So that's kind of neat because now all the communications my firewalls do, if let's say I'm buying weapons through Butina and the Russian ambassador is then encrypting that traffic back to Russia to his friend Torshin, if I'm buying weapons packages or UAVs or Club K or whatever I'm buying, it's kind of nice to have somebody who's a staffer like Gauntner. I'm not saying Gauntner was involved in this with Ben Cardin, but it's gun your engine if you're a drug dealer for rum. It's nice to have a staffer with a top secret clearance. Most people know Jack Prosovic is their most famous, Navy intel person out there with a face on television. So I think he self-identified there. So you have the ability now to basically encrypt your communications with these Blackberries. So again, the rep themselves doesn't need to be carrying the Blackberry. We know Kislyak carried a Blackberry, so that would make sense. We know Flynn had a Blackberry, and again, anyone you read into the program, you'd have to have Anthony Weiner's trusted staff configure that Blackberry. Again, remember NSA is sort of divided into two. There's the old NSA, which has all the rules, and about FISA and all that sort of thing. And then there's DISA, Defense Information Systems Agency, which kind of created a replica of FISA and the NSA without the FISA rules, with military rules. And if you wanted to get around the constitutional protections that were laid in by, let's say, an Admiral Rogers was enforcing at NSA, you would take your spying, if you're going to do a deep dive on Trump with a bunch of kids from American universities around the world, you would want to push that spying off to DISA, to the Defense Information Systems Agency. We've taken you up there many times. We've talked about G4S being the Wackenhut British Pakistani intelligence agency that coincidentally guards all of our national laboratories and nuclear facilities, as well as state houses and many court houses in America as well. You may remember Omar Mateen, the mass murderer at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, is the most famous person there. So I just wanted to say that, again, I think if you're looking in a particular area for encrypted communications, look to DISA. Maybe Nate Kane wants to set forward. I know he was at U.S. Cyber Command, U.S. Cybercom. He would know about the encrypted communications if he's actually working for Huber, who's supposedly hot on the case, investigating all the misdeeds with the classified emails with Hillary. Or is he not? He's working actually for Joe Schmitz, or that's his law firm, Schmitz Socaris. So maybe we won't see anything soon from Nate Kane, if you remember that Nate Kane is the whistleblower. So that's the first thing. Now the second thing is, a couple of things I never said. I never said that George Papadopoulos' now wife, Mangiante, translated at the London Diplomacy Center, Mifsud's London Diplomacy Center. I never said she translated for any of the Eastern European languages. I said she spoke the Romance languages, so she speaks, I've talked to her many times, French, I've texted back and forth with her many times on Twitter. She speaks French, she's obviously native Italian, and she speaks perfect German. So I never said that any of the kids coming up from the Rome Mifsud school up to the London Diplomacy Center when they were doing Crossfire Hurricane, I never said that she translated for the Russian kids. I always said that there was an encoding scheme, short of actually trading thumb drives, you know, sending Papadopoulos and Page to trade thumb drives between the Atlantic team and the US team. I said that that was Nellie Ohr's communication. She has a 2-meter radio. She doesn't need to talk. I keep saying this. You don't need to talk and speak Russian. There is going to be a record of that, by the way. The U.S. Spectrum Center, as a part of DISA, would pick up the 2-meter traffic that Nellie Ohr was doing. So if you think that's a workaround, get around the NSA, that's not correct. My brother is a 2-meter radio expert, so I know a little bit about it from him. And if this was a 2-meter radio, the number one way you want to get when somebody you want to make a meeting with somebody, you just go bop bop like that 2 times on your key clicker, pop pop, and that says the other person can hear that as a psh, psh, like that. It means let's go to the meet point. So you don't need to, or let's go to, you know, send me an email with your update or whatever the code is. But there was this thing called Morse code before there was voice over the radio. I think people know that. So all I have to do is have one person at the London Center. If you don't remember the London Academy of Diplomacy that Mifsud, his spy school that he started for the Crossfire Hurricane in London, if you don't remember that, that's the 150 kids from all over the Mediterranean and all the different American university schools all over the world, except the United States and North America, North America. So at no time did I ever say Nellie Ohr spoke Russian over the radio. I only said she would be smart enough to just go bop bop on her key set, and that would tell the crew over there, hey, you need to send an update of what you've got. What's the latest and greatest stuff you got? Okay, so I wanted to get those 2 misnomers out of the way. Again, these are sophisticated people. They're not stupid people. NSA and DISA are not stupid people. If they want to use military means to do a political takedown, they're not going to use the stupidest methods possible. They're going to use the most sophisticated methods that they would use normally in wartime. And actually, a political takedown is very helpful in terms of practicing for coups overseas. You want to work people through the same paces with the same techniques, the same advanced techniques and so forth that you would use in a takedown of, let's say, Venezuela or wherever we're going. You want to make sure that there's a repeating pattern so everybody's doing the same role over and over again, so you have that operational mission readiness for your confidence to go into your operation. That's what happened. People say, oh my gosh, 150 kids, you know, at the London Academy of Diplomacy right before the 2014 election. Nellie Ohr also didn't just get her radio in the 2016, like people say. She may have applied for the license, but by her own testimony, she got it before the 2014 election when Krylova and Bogacheva were doing their run. And again, a mission accomplished, boop, boop, leaving, you know, Ted Cruz's barbecue now in Texas. We're going on the road to LA. You don't need to create a big footprint. You just need to go bop, bop, I'm on the road again. So we don't know the whole extent of the communication between Krylova and Bogacheva, but we're trying to help the folks, our good friends at NSA, figure out what the other half of the house was doing, figure out what DISA was doing. Again, we don't want people coming out of our great national security agency to then go into a military type operative role in politics in the United States. We have to kind of put an end to this, get control, go back to a Saxa type environment, the McDuff type of environment, where it all hits the unelected people's desk and they report to the elected people, not the other way around.